Hey everyone. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how this daily separator indicator works. Ultimately, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It visualizes your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday all the way to Friday and divides each day as a new day separation with highs of that day as well as lows of the day. But what makes this indicator more useful than the default separations that come with the MetaTrader is that it ultimately allows you to shift the zones or the areas where the start of a day and end of a day closes to not be represented based on the server time, but rather based on a New York time. So if you are utilizing a strategy where you're requiring the New York open times and you want to visualize where those areas occur, then the best way to do it is to set the indicator to New York specific time. So let's get into it and I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. So if you load the indicator into your MetaTrader and you go to the properties, you should see over here, there's a few parameters that you have control over. So I've divided them into three separate categories. The first one controls whether you're viewing it in a New York time or whether you are going to use server time. So by default, it is set to New York. So that's why you'll notice that on a Sunday, that day has a separation and is equal to the width of all the other days because Friday closes early and Sunday actually opens within the same period as the Friday, as the Thursday to Friday open range. So in other words, if we switch this back to false and we click OK, you should see now it's rearranging this to show you based on the server open and close. So depending on which server time you're on, you're going to have to use this GMT offset to offset that from your from the mid GMT or 0. And then if you are further along the timeline, you're going to have to add additional hours to offset that based on where the server is oriented from. Otherwise, you can just leave it to the default of true for the New York Open, and it will disregard that and automatically calculate the difference for you. So just to kind of put it right back to where it was. Secondly, if you have a look here, we also have an option to see how many look back weeks you want to visualize. So currently the default is set for 2 weeks. So you'll see it starts on a Monday and it all the way goes back to a Monday. So that's your 2-week period. So if we go back again and we set this to 3 weeks, for example, it will then add an offset for an additional week all the way to that third week's Monday. So very useful if you want to include more days to see highs and lows and the opens between where the previous day closes and new day opens. That's really much of a muchness. You can choose how you want to do this. Then in the second category, we have an option for styling your separators. So the actual lines, are they dotted style? Are they any of the other methods? You can choose whichever one you prefer, like a solid line. You also have the option to increase the width of the separator line, the color of the line, and then the labels for the particular day. So if you choose that to be also the same red color, you can do so. And then the font size of the labels is really up to you at the end of the day. So let's modify these, click OK, and we can see that now we've modified and updated those settings. Going back in the last section, you'll see that this is pretty much just visualizing the highs and lows, and you can choose the color as well as the width of the lines. So currently it is set to like a light bluish color. If you guys choose to have also the same kind of reddish tone to have a uniformness to your color scheme, that is then easily set simply by changing those settings. So that kind of covers all the basics of the actual settings parameters. What you will notice here in the top right corner is a chart update to show whether the status of the New York is set to true or on. It will then view the schedule of the days according to the New York time, what the server offset is based on the settings, and then how this works is when you look at the range that we're currently viewing on the chart from 2608 to 2712, that's the range that's being represented in here. And the moment I scale this up or down, you should see that the labels at the top scales to always snap right back to the same width space between the top and the bottom. So the same thing if we choose to zoom in or out, and the moment we let go, it will then just require a single tick to re-update the visualization of it to show you that the days are again the same distance away from the top. So I hope that gives you guys a basic understanding of how this indicator works in terms of its functionality. However, in terms of the features, you could use this as an approach to view whether the previous day liquidity has been swept. And if you see a reaction and a rejection off of that, and we have a strong displacement, you could potentially find opportunities to trade in a specific direction. So ultimately, really your choice how you want to utilize this indicator. It just helps a lot, especially on the lower time frames, to clearly see a previous day high, previous day low, and see if we had a reaction off of those levels, and then finding opportunities to trade in the opposing direction. So I hope you guys found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one.